Welcome to Triple M NRL Daily on your Monday, a public holiday Monday for some parts of Australia. Us here in New South Wales doing the tough carry, coming in on a long weekend. Everyone listening in Brisbane, just business as normal. It's Charlie White who got Wade Graham, Jimmy Graham. How are you, boys?
Fantastic. I actually had a great weekend, a long weekend. As we know, Luke Keary and I swapped shifts, so I had Anzac Day off. It was my first one off in quite some time. It was good fun.
Mate, good one to have off. Anzac Day. Did you go play tour?
I did. It was my brother-in-law's last day here in Australia, so it worked out that he got to experience a little bit of Anzac Day and took him in there. He got in the ring and had a throw, and then, as you know, on my days off, Charlie, golf after that.
How bloody good. Jimmy Graham, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, doing really well. Obviously, Anzac Day, as a visitor to this country, I respect it and got nothing but admiration for how serious this country takes this a very important day. Very, very envious of a culture that celebrates its fallen and doesn't forget them. Incredibly important. And yeah, the football, with obviously plenty of points on display. The Dogs dismal. Wade and I were just talking about the Sharks game, which was a strange one, but all in all, going well, Charlie. And I enjoyed myself post Anzac Day game.
Very good, Jimmy. And there's a lot to get to. Danny Weidler is going to join us very shortly to talk Jarome Luai's trip to PNG. We're also going to talk the blowouts on Sunday. Fozball, does he get the full-time deal? We'll find out a bit later in the show. And also we talk Melbourne and the Dragons. And quick reminder, if you want to give us a follow on Apple, Spotify, Listener or YouTube, it would be very appreciated. I know Jimmy Graham keeps a close eye on the follower numbers on Apple, and you can listen wherever you get your podcast. But if you're listening on Apple, leave us a review. We're currently on 212 reviews, and we want to get to 250 by Origin 1. The best ones will be read out like this one, 5 stars. I can't believe how little Charlie is. But jokes aside, love the Sunday show, and Charlie is very short. I'm actually 6 foot. I just carry myself short. But I'm actually 6 foot if you measure me.
You actually, but maybe you're saying small, it's not a height. Size, it's a size.
Oh yeah,
because,
well, that's fair then. That's fair.
Yeah. You were looking. You'd obviously, everybody knows you did your 75 hard. And look, there's consequences for living that clean, and one of those was you turned into a stick man.
I did. I have lost a lot of weight.
You'd be taller than me, so you're not that short.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I think there was a picture of me standing next to Tom Trbojevic and the height.
Well, he's
disparity.
tall.
He's tall. He's very tall. The man who's joined us on the line now, I'm trying to think if he's tall. He's quite tall. The great Danny Weidler. How tall are you, Danny?
That's an odd question to start with. You hammer Reedy about Botox. You want my height? Okay, 5'11".
Yeah. Well, what height are you? It's not a secret.
5'11".
Oh, you'd be 6 foot easily.
5'11".
You carry yourself as tall, I reckon.
Well, I don't know what that means, Charlie, but I believe you.
Danny, big news though. Your man Michael Chammas has lured Jarome Luai to Papua New Guinea. What can you tell us?
Well, that's half the job, isn't it? The other half will be to convince him now that he's been there. He flew over, I believe, yesterday. Jarome, his wife, his manager, and they were given the full tour of facilities, where things are going to be built, apartments, where footy is going to be played, the kind of life they're going to live over there I call it the compound. No one else likes that, but it's a compound. And I believe that the Prime Minister has been there talking to Jarome as well. So they consider Jarome a very key person to try and recruit. And obviously, Jarome Luai is interested in exploring this seriously, because you don't just hop on a plane to PNG and go through that whole process unless you have a genuine interest in what's going on. It's quite remarkable. It's smart. It's a smart play by Michael Chammas. We have to refer to him now as the general manager of the Chiefs, because he's the sort of player that the Chiefs are going to need. A team man, someone who can attract other players, all of that. And I think it's a really bold, smart move, something we haven't really seen from the Perth franchise so far.
Hey, Danny, just for clarity, can you remind everyone the contract situation with Jarome right now? Because initially it was a 4-year deal, but he had a couple of clauses in there in his favour where it was a 5-year deal, Charlie's just pointing out to me. But can you just remind everyone where that is exactly at and how it looks.
So, Wade, everyone's been harassing Jarome about taking clauses out of his contract and all that sort of stuff to show commitment to the Tigers. Obviously, he hasn't done that. So he has until April 30. What's today? April 27, is it? So he's got until April 30 as a free agent. So he's got another, 3 or so days to be a free agent so he can sign with another club. He also has an option in his favour in his contract to process another year with the West Tigers. So he's not breaking any rules. He could sign with PNG for 28 and also take the option up to be a Tiger for 2027. So he's in an absolute win-win situation. It's, again, smart by the Chiefs to know that that's how his contract works and that they're going to try and, nail him down in the next couple of days as their first signing. I don't know how the actual, we're speaking at 11:30ish. I don't know how Jarome has processed the entire experience. I don't know what his wife thinks because I haven't talked to them. And all I know is that there's nothing been spared in terms of, showing him around and making him understand exactly what PNG is about. Lorna McPherson, the CEO, is also there. So if you've got the Prime Minister of the country and the main executives of the Chiefs all rolling out the red carpet, you can only imagine the attraction that has been, or the good sell that's been put on for PNG. And let's not muck around. A lot of this is going to come down to cash. Jarome's contract is around 1.2 with the Tigers, somewhere around that. You'd imagine that would be the minimum he would sign on with the Chiefs for, even though it'll be a couple of years down the track. So the minimum that Jarome Luai will be earning would be 1.2 tax-free, which is the equivalent of earning about $2.2 million every year. You do that for 3 years, and that's a life changer.
You'd know all about that, wouldn't you, Danny?
Well, hang on, Mr. Buy-Round.
On a serious note, great news potentially for the PNG Chiefs, but this is going to come at a cost to the West Tigers and their resurgence. How's this news been met? What's the reaction from him inside the West Tigers and specifically Coach Benji Marshall?
I think Benji knew about this, guys. I think that Jarome wouldn't have ambushed him to suddenly, he wouldn't have had his captain suddenly turning up in Port Moresby because there was never going to stay a secret once, the locals got wind of him being there. So Jarome, I'm sure, would have told Benji of his plans. I don't think, would Benji be delighted? Probably not. I don't know. But I mean, Benji also understands that this is a professional sport and, players have got a limited time to make money. And Jarome will have, will he have had 3 years service with the Tigers if it ends at, if he does the deal for 28? And I think they would have got a lot of what they wanted. He's helped change the culture there. He's helped, turn the team into something that they weren't a couple of years ago. The job's not complete, obviously. The crocodile roll, as Richo liked to call it, isn't over. But there are significant steps that have taken place whilst Jarome Luai has been at the West Tigers. No one can doubt that he's made a difference, whether it be on the field, he's been pretty good. I don't think he's been like their best player, but he's been pretty good. But I think culturally, and that's he's been big in that area. And I think that he's the sort of person that's why the Chiefs are interested, because yes, he'll be a good player in a couple of years still. He won't, but what he will be even more so is the sort of person who can energize a team and give a real spiritual value to, because he's very good in that area.
Hey, Danny, I read your column on Sunday, as I always do, and noticed, you sort of generalising the situation over at Perth Bears.
Mm.
Does this again speak to the situation at Perth, that they're not flying Jarome Luai out to their facility to show him what life would look like there. Is this a further showcasing of the gap between the two new franchise clubs coming into the competition?
Well, Jimmy, I think, well, we don't know. Well, he may have done it. He may have done it in secret. We don't know, right? But you're not doing your job properly as a general manager of a new club or even an established club if you're not having a crack at Jarome Luai. I mean, I wonder if the Dragons have thought of it. I wonder if the Dragons thought, okay, we're crying out for a half with experience, a half of quality. I wonder if they thought of trying to do this. I don't know that. I haven't put that question to them. I don't know if Perth have done it, but clearly, we know about the Chiefs and that they're even if they don't get Jarome, they're showing they're serious by having a proper crack like this, aren't they? They're showing that they mean business. Perth, meanwhile, are struggling to have a GM of footy there. I'm hearing all sorts of things about a lack of faith from people in Mal Meninga, their head coach, coming from the head office. So at the moment, yes, the Perth roster is okay. You guys may disagree with me. You may have a different opinion on that. And look, we haven't seen anyone sign yet with PNG, but they're by just doing this, at least they're showing that they're serious and they're going to have a proper crack at signing players of the highest caliber.
Mate, just quickly, what do you make of this? You've been around the game for a long time. It's quite a unique contract situation, though, where Tigers fans might have to watch Jarome Luai for 18 months, knowing that he's going to be leaving the club. It does feel like a very strange situation.
Not the first time. Like we're seeing it right now with Pezzett, aren't we? We saw it famously with Jimmy Maloney. It's up to the.
But is Pezzett a bit different because Pezzett's a little bit different though, isn't it? Because it's like Pezzett just came to Parramatta for a year. They knew they were only getting him for a year. Whereas Jarome Luai is going to have played for the Tigers for 4 seasons at that point, but they're going to know that he's leaving 2.5 seasons in.
I get where you're coming from, Charlie, but I just think it's the way of modern sport, and you've got to, I guess the Tigers fans, they might not like it, but they've got to appreciate Jarome while he's there. And they won't like that either, but that's the way of modern sport at the moment. And, it's the Tigers have had their chance to try and do something with Jarome off their own bat, haven't they? They I don't know how hard they've tried to get the clauses out. Hasn't happened. That this is the consequence of that.
Well, Danny, thanks very much for joining us. 5'11", Danny Weidler, almost 6 foot. It's great to have you on the line for the second week in a row. You're a good man.
This isn't an emergency podcast, so is it?
No, not quite.
Not
quite.
Not quite.
What if
he leaves and Benji leaves with him?
What if he leaves? Is that will you have to do an emergency one, Charlie? Is that next?
I don't think so. Because as you said, Danny, where the Tigers were, when they were in the position to sign Jarome Luai, they might have had to put those clauses in to get him across the line. Okay, so that's just how it was. But Jerome's been a big factor in why they've turned things around.
Yeah, I
know
agree.
there were some issues last year about the dressing room and whatnot, but there's a definite turnaround in their attitude and the way they go about things with their football this year. And I think you can't really, it's hard to argue if he was to be offered, say, that $1.2 million from the PNG Chiefs, and you know that he's going to have 100% of that put into the bank instead of taxed. You can understand the appeal to a lot of players, and it's just a situation they're in. Jerome's, he's provided good service. I know they'd love to see him provide greater service for longer, but this is the situation. This is sport, and it's life-changing if he gets a 3 or 4 year deal worth that much money to go to PNG.
100%. Like, yeah, I couldn't live there personally. I wouldn't want to do it, but, good luck to him.
Money talks, Danny. Great to have you on the line, and we'll see you again on Wednesday.
See ya.
Now, boys, it's a massive story. Now, one player that they've got coming through, the great Javon Andrews, who's this young kid who potentially could take Jarome Luai's place once he does leave. He's an under-19s Queensland Origin player, and he's meant to be a star of the future. So they have got options there, Wade.
Yeah, I think, the Tigers, they need to take, the good news and the bad news. They've turned it around. They're trying to create something there. Benji's been really strong, and we need to give him credit as well for the turnaround at that club. And, they're trying to build a culture there and a high level of expectation. And this is just part and parcel of the game. Like, no one player is ever going to be as big as a club. They would love to keep him, but if they put their best offer in front of Jarome, and it comes up short because of obviously what PNG may offer or any other club, well, all they can do is put their best offer in front of him. If he doesn't want to take it up, well, then you need to move on. And the Tigers have shown this year, like with even Jock Madden when Luai was out, they're more than just one player. But Tigers fans may be upset if Jarome does eventually leave, or he might stay. But I think he's been a big part of their turnaround, and they have got good service out of him. It's just the situation they were in when he signed the deal. Of course, it was smart by him to put some security and protections around that long-term deal, and now he's just exercising his right within his contract. So if the Tigers, if it gets to the point where they put their best deal in front of him, it doesn't match, well, you just need to live with it, allow him to move on, and then replace someone within him and back your football program, back your footy system that you're going to cover that individual player's loss.
Yeah, undoubtedly, Jerome's impact stretches far beyond the field of play. You can see how much he leads that team, how a lot of those younger players idolise him, hang off his every word. I think it'd be hugely disappointing if he is to leave the West Tigers. I could see that having an impact. But if he decides to stay, and that show of faith, like, that could be huge for the Tigers, especially this season. You can see where this goes with the negative headlines around him potentially leaving. But if he says, I'm staying, I'm all about Benji, take the clauses out, I'm pot committed, then it becomes a huge boost.
Well, just another part of this story is, I know it's Jarome this time because he's the player in that situation, but it's a warning shot from PNG that they're serious. And if they identify a player that they think will suit their team or that they want to have a crack at, they're gonna roll out the red carpet and have a serious go at trying to lure that player over. And they do have some advantages, like that salary cap, the tax-free money. It will be a big factor with a lot of players because, me and Jimmy, we played for a long time. There's nothing like getting your pay slip, right? And then you see how much is there. And then at the bottom, it's half of that. So for a player to go, I'm going to get all of that money, because we toss around the $1 million player all the time. Well, they're only getting 500 once they pay their super and the tax. Like, you're only seeing half of that money. Yeah. And NRL players will go, I'm going to see all of it. Well, let's go. Makes
you question some things, that pay slip, doesn't it? Like, where does this money go? People, schools say, I don't have any kids. Or roads, they'll pay. Yeah, but there's potholes all over the shop. Where's this going? Where is this all going? And Jarome potentially, and those other Papua New Guinean players, they're not going to have to wonder where it goes. It's all going into their bank.
Is it too much of an advantage? Has it tipped the scales too far, this tax-free thing? Because reality is, Jarome Luai would need to get paid $2.2 million by a club here in Sydney to match a $1.2 million offer from PNG.
Well, it is a big advantage. You're getting double the salary cap realistically, but they obviously have a little bit of a disadvantage too. The way the players will have to live. The compound, we don't like to call it a compound.
Resort.
The resort. They'll have their challenges, and the NRL has tried to, they've worked out that deal, right, to make it easier for them to fill that team and to get that franchise off its feet. But then when you look at them compared to the Perth Bears, it feels like they're gaining much more momentum, and they're actually got a little bit more time too, don't they? So yeah, it's a tough one, but it is an advantage.
Look, yeah, we can argue about whether it is too much of an advantage or not, and I go back and think about Jarome Luai particularly. We're going to isolate this case, but when he moved from Penrith Panthers, it was life-changing sum of money to go to the Tigers as well. Yeah, the ability to potentially double that is not really going to change too much. In the Jarome Luai will be an incredibly wealthy man, whether he stays at Tigers or wherever he goes across. I'm sure his life after football will be. He won't struggle.
Yeah.
So look, football. We're joking about it, but football gives you a great life. You're paid well, especially if you're one of the top players like Jarome is. I think there's just on this incident. I think there's more to be gained by him staying at Wests
for his legacy.
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
this is the thing, Jimmy, because you raise a good point. I know we could talk about this all day, right? About the advantage. Are those top tier guys, the guys who are already on over $1 million? They are going to be fine if they look after their money and do the right things. It's the middle
tier.
It's the middle tier player who hasn't probably, because he's not at that elite level.
Yeah.
He's never going to be able to attract that $1 million deal ever. But PNG can offer $500,000, which is just basically the same as $1 million, and then that's where they get their benefit. And again, this is the world we're living in, and this is the decisions are made to get this franchise going. So they're going to have some pulling power, 100%.
You're right. We could talk about this all day. Middle tier people are where the big advantages, the big leverage is for getting players across the PNG, because that is life-changing. That really is going to be life-changing for them. But for me, you ask about tipping the scales there, Charlie. And we saw the Dolphins come into the comp not giving any help, but they live, it's establishing a team in an area that currently, a number of NRL players would reside and have family and all that connection. But, the Perth Bears come into the competition, in about 5 months, they'll start training November the 1st. The probably argument where this all leads to is like, do they need a bit of a sweetener to get players across there? Because I didn't see, Danny Weidler said, we maybe he's gone over to Perth and we've not known about it. We'd know.
100%.
We'd know. If Jarome had gone to Perth, we'd know.
I would love to see a 25% salary cap bonus for Perth, because it's really important that Perth comes out of the blocks flying.
I agree. That demographic over there in the West, where we haven't had a footprint for such a long time, and you don't want to see franchises come in and struggle, right? And then just not compete, go backwards. There's already some issues going on there at the moment. I don't know. Is it too late? Like, has the horse bolted already to go back and give them some relief or some advantages? But they need to get a wiggle on, because 5 months isn't a long time. I know they've signed a dozen players. You need a few more to get going in 5 months, and with PNG coming in, and that attraction, it's a saturated market now, and you're competing against a lot of interest.
Yeah, well, even the names we're hearing around Papua New Guinea, it's Jarome Luai, it's Mitch Kenny, it's Liam Martin. Like, they're all three of them are bigger names than anyone Perth has signed so far.
Yeah, and again, with PNG, they're going to have that middle tier, because the top tier players, they get paid the most for a reason, right? They're the best and most influential, either on the field every week or even around the club. But not only do they get paid for that, they get the best deals on the side as well, like the endorsements, the sponsorships. So the middle tier guys who really are not at that level and unable to get into that zone, this is where they have the biggest advantage, PNG. They'll be able to fill, I think, 1 to 30. Like, they obviously want a couple of big marquee players so they can start with a bang, and they're confident in their team, but they'll be able to fill out their roster.
And third parties are tax-free as well. That's an important thing to take into account as well. So the players playing for Papua New Guinea,
I might make a comeback.
The other, like someone like Jarome Luai, he'll have ratchet clauses in, but it's smart from Michael Chammas if he can sign some players before we know what the salary cap is for 2028 and beyond, when the new TV rights deal kicks in. Like $500,000 could become the equivalent of what a $750 contract is if the salary cap jumps. We're expecting maybe a 25% salary cap jump, and managers will be across this. But if you can get some deals done that don't have ratchet clauses in before we even know what the salary cap is, that could be a huge win as well.
Could.
Stay tuned. Watch this space. Just before we leave the Tigers, will it impact them at all this year?
Listen, I don't think so. There would have been conversations before this with Jarome and Benji, I'm sure, and the power brokers there. It's just, this is a situation they're in. Jerome's doing the right thing by himself, and he's having a look about what's out there. I think he's big enough and experienced enough to get out there and keep this momentum going from. The Tigers have been really one of the most enjoyable teams to watch this season, the way they're playing. Minor speed bump with obviously the noise now around it, but I think they're pretty strong and know which direction they're going going in that team at the moment.
See, I think it will affect them, or it certainly has the potential to. If like, let's say he goes, and the Tigers have been great this year. They've not had to deal with a number of losses or a form slump, which you'd imagine they will at some point. And then what people will do is jump on the back of the fact that this has been too coincidental. We saw it happened at the Dogs last year, and everyone puts the blame on this one particular outside thing. Tigers are the feel-good story at the moment. This, if Jarome decides to leave and then a form slump or a turn in results happen, we can see people point to this. However, if he decides to stay, like I said earlier, this could be the huge boost. Jarome comes out nice and strong. You know what? I'm getting rid of those clauses. I'm pod committed. I've taken them out as an act of goodwill because I believe in Benji and what we're building here. We're going to go and win a comp within the next 2 to 3 years. That could boost them in the other. This could have an effect on them in the positive way as well.
It's such a shame because we were there on Thursday night and I'm so in on the Tigers bandwagon, but they just can't help but find themselves in the headlines always, especially now. Like during your guys' playing days, the Tigers were probably never an attractive club to go and sign for, but now they're actually a team that if a player was available and you were, say, a free agent way and the Tigers came knocking your door, you'd probably be interested in the
Well, they look
prospect.
like they're enjoying their footy. And again, it's credit to Benji and the staff in the playing group because, they've really turned it around. And Jerome's been a big part of that. I understand what Jimmy's saying in terms of it could be the right boost if he recommits and could propel them onto that premiership window. But it is what it is. It's only noise if you let it become noise, and if they do lose form or it does affect their play and the results start to go the wrong way, well, then you start to ask the questions. But if they've got confidence in their footy, they go out there and keep winning, well, the noise just remains noise. It's all external. They just need to worry about their own backyard and keep getting out there, keep getting after it and getting the results.
Let's review the footy. Great weekend of footy. We'll start on Sunday. A couple of absolute blowouts. Penrith put Knights to the sword and Manly 4 wins in a row. Let's start with Manly. Is it time to give Kieran Foran the head coaching job full time? Sign him up on a 3-year deal.
Oh, the turnaround's been amazing, hasn't it? We spoke about the sugar rush after possibly, the pressure being released after Anthony Seibold moves on, Kieran getting that job, the lack of probably pressure at the start because of how quick his transition into that role was. But they didn't look like losing on the weekend. They've improved every week. Talk about a clear and focused footy team. The first 3 rounds, they were anything but that. And then all of a sudden, they look like exactly like they know what they're doing. Fogarty was fantastic yesterday. His control, his runaway try, even the field goal at halftime where the game was, to and fro there for a bit. But they just looked really, really in control. And Foz, if he keeps going, well, it's really his decision, right? He either wants to be the head coach and Manly feel like they have to stick with him because if they go another direction now and all of a sudden they drop losing games, well, then it looks bad on the men club, right? So I think if Foz wants to roll, it's his job. It's his job. And there's other things to deal with. He probably hasn't had to deal with, dropping plays. He had to deal with the injuries on the weekend. And when you become the head coach, the sponsorship stuff, recruitment, retainment, he'll be still learning that part of the job. But, what they're doing on the field, he's taking care of that.
And obviously all he's known is winning.
Yeah.
He's yet to experience the downside of it. Look, I've got nothing but admiration for Kieran Foran and the turnaround in results and the feeling around that Manly Football Club. I can't help but think it would be better for him and his long-term coaching ambitions to not take this job. In November, he was playing for New Zealand.
So what?
I know you say so what, Charlie, and I get your point 100%, but this is so foreign. It's so and maybe, we highlight maybe coaching is overcomplicated at times. Maybe if he just got a GM of football to take care of all the other stuff and he just focused on pure coaching, but, there is a normal color, a matchup of degree of difficulty getting straight into the job, but I just can't help but think this isn't the best move for Kieran Foran because coaching will never be this easy for him. And I think you look at other coaches and how much learning they do before they get into this step. And that's not saying that that's the right way, but it's just my limitations that I'm putting on this and the expectations, Kieran Foran shouldn't listen to them. But I think that there's a lot more to coaching than what's happening right now, and I just think it'd be best for him to not take this job at the moment. I think he'd be better doing it. He'd be the next Manly head coach, if that makes sense.
But that job might not become available for 20 years.
20 years?
You just don't know.
Okay.
You just don't know.
I do know.
But you don't.
I do.
But you don't.
I do.
If you're Kieran
I know that the Manly coaching job will be available again within the next 20 years. I guarantee it.
If you're Kieran Foran, though, like you must be thinking, why can't I do this, though? Like, why can't I? I've coached 4 games. Like, what's Kieran Foran?
Because he's coached 4 games.
Yeah, and they've won all 4 of them. And it's gone really well. What's Kieran? You know Kieran. He seems like he's a born leader, natural leader. Seems like he understands human beings and can connect with them and on a social level and an emotional level. Tactically, he's obviously a genius. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to do what he's done in the game. Like, what side of coaching could he not excel at?
He would take the challenge on. It's just whether he wants, in my opinion, it's just whether he wants to do it or not. Like, he's so fresh.
But I think he wants to do it.
Yeah, I know, but he's so fresh out of the game, and there's plenty to do as an assistant role. Plenty to do. They do a lot of work, and it's long hours. But it's different when you're the head coach. Like football is actually the easy part. It's dealing with everything else: the board, the sponsorships, recruitment, retainment, development system, your juniors. There's a lot that goes onto it, and he's had a lot on his plate for his whole career. Like it takes a lot to be a first grader of his caliber. He mentally he would have been switched on all the time. I don't know if he's had that break where he could just take a step back and have a breath, but he's been put in this situation. He would take the challenge on, but again, if they do lose a couple of games and he needs to deal with some stuff like that, does he still have the appetite to jump straight into it? I know there's no guarantee the job when you might get another opportunity, so he might need to look at it and go, well, if I get the opportunity, I'll take it now, and then I'll back myself to learn on the run. But he's doing well so far. There's a lot more I know where Jimmy's coming from. There's a lot more that goes into it than just the footy. But if he keeps winning and they keep playing well, I think they'd be mad not to stick with him.
But probably like Kieran Foran's job at the moment, right? The title is head coach, right? But I reckon if he gets that head coaching job, like his day to day, his week to week, completely changes. Why? Because Charlie, I reckon at the moment he's given this team on an interim basis, and he gets to just focus on pretty much the top 17 players, right? Like Wade's talking about, and we're doing this game plan for this game, and you're looking at me as if to say, well, yeah, that's coaching. But I guarantee when Seabold was there, and when Hasler was there, and when Tuvey was there, like just focusing on that is 20% of your workload. Where now it's probably 99% of Kieran's workload. So the actual job in itself is completely different, like completely different. And you know, don't be fooled by this illusion that this is how it's going to look if he signed a 3-year deal that, well, you know what, this past 4 weeks has gone really well. We got the results and I'm really enjoying it. Like, has he passed the test for getting results? Yeah. But it's not, it's probably not real coaching.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
like,
100%.
And when I say coaching, it's probably not, like you're a manager. You're manager of the you're running the organization. He's not running the organization at the moment. And don't let my limitations or my expectations stop you. But it's just different.
You two, star players, what's the best bit of coaching you ever got?
Well, I used to have. I've always been a relaxed player, and calm heading into games. Maybe to the point where it was too much. And I remember I used to quite youngly in my career to Flano. I'd be like, she'll be right. Like, don't worry, it'll be right. I'll be right. I'll be good come the weekend. And then he said, no, it won't be. It won't be all right unless you make it all right. So then, that was within my preparation and, mentality before games. So that lesson stuck with me for a long time. It won't be just okay. Like it won't be right if you just kick it down the road. Go out there and do something about it. Make sure you're prepared to make it go well on the weekend.
So Flano understood you as a character and knew what made you tick, basically, by the sounds of it. So that's the most important part of coaching. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, relationships. Yeah.
Okay. So how Kieran Foran manages the board, who gives a toss? It's about getting those players on the field to perform.
But again, Charlie, because it's an interim role, like his day-to-day interactions with his players are different.
But it's still about getting those top players to perform at the highest level.
Yeah,
that's the most important part of it. And you're saying Kieran Foran can handle that.
But I would say, Charlie, that's the easiest part of it.
Of coaching?
Of coaching. Like, if you're a good coach, that's the easiest. Like, managing the guys and getting them ready for the 17. Like just my example there, Flano knew what made me tick. So then he knew how to manage me, and then I'd do the rest as a player because I wanted to perform for myself, right? But it's when I left the club, I go home. Flano's got to do that with every player. Then he's got to do it with, the marketing team, the sponsors team. He's got to run the program. He's got to work out the junior development system. He's got to have an eye on the kids coming through and should they train a week with the first graders, when to bring them in, when to expose them, board meetings, facilities, like it's everything. It's you manage the whole organisation. Jimmy said it right.
But does that have to be the model for Manly? Can Manly have a
different
model?
No, it
They've got
doesn't.
Jim Dimmick's a very experienced assistant coach. You've got Peter Gentle, who's a very experienced guy there, who's the head of football and head of recruitment. Can he take a lot of the weight of some of those things like recruitment?
Well, they would be now.
Yeah. So
because it's interim role. But when you're the first grade coach, the head coach, the buck stops with you.
Yeah.
So you want to trust other people to take care of your job and they're doing the best work for you. Well, like those other guys aren't Kieran Foran. So all of a sudden, if something goes wrong, it doesn't matter who did it. Like it's under Kieran Foran's watch. So you need to have your finger on the pulse of a lot of things. You might not have to run the day-to-day stuff with it, but you got to set it up the way you want it set up so you can back yourself to get the results. And I think Kieran can get there. He can do all this. Like I'll back him as we've seen his career. We know the type of person he is. It's not within the realms of possibility that he can get this all done. But just right now, it's the easiest it'll ever be for him.
And also, right, let's look at it from this point of view. Right, let's go back to November the 1st while Kieran Foran's playing for New Zealand. And let's just say we made a prediction that Manly are going to get rid of Seabold at any point during 2026. Right, who's going to take over? Is Kieran Foran's name on your top 10 list?
No.
Maybe.
No.
If I was the Cowboys, I'd have a look at Foran for sure.
For head coach.
For head coach.
I'm transporting us back to November the 1st of 2020 of 2025.
I missed that. No,
right.
no. Obviously
So we're it's November the 1st, 2025, and I've said, Seabold's going to go at some stage during the year. I want you to put 10 names on a piece of paper about who could take over. Kieran Foran isn't on that. Right. Fast forward, we're in now. Okay. 4 games. And we're going, he's the man. 4 games. And okay, this is just a thought experiment. Everything changes, but some things stay the same.
If the Dragons head of football role, which is now Ben Craig's, taken in his chief operating officer role, if that was available from November 1 and Michael Chammas was sitting on a Channel 9 panel as a journalist or a Triple M panel as a journalist, would he have been in the top 10 candidates for the Dragons head of football role?
Yes.
No, he wouldn't have. That is absolute nonsense.
We know Chammy was always
that doesn't mean the Dragons would have had him in their top 10 candidates, and most people wouldn't have even thought about the prospect.
I reckon Chammy would have been lower on the list of the top 10. Yeah, I think he would have been.
You think he would have been higher in the top 10?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I hope our NRL Daily listeners are enjoying the no footy chat. We haven't talked any footy so far.
Time travel.
Well, Manly on the field, Wado.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Parramatta, I thought, hung in there in that first half. Obviously, the odd scoreline at halftime, 7-6. But then they just always looked in control, Manly. Olakuatu, great performance. Cooler, wonderful at the back again. And Fogarty, I think that was probably his best game in the 70s. Really starting to get in his rhythm there and steer that team around like he did down there at Canberra. So he's comfortable in that Manly jersey now. It's probably always going to take a little bit of time. But yeah, they're looking good. They're looking good.
Wade, I love working with you because I do like to steer conversations south. You brought us back to football, but I'm going to pick up on something that you said and steer us away. Anyone with kids and saw that scoreline at halftime, I know what was going through. Like, oh God, it was so annoying that.
6-7.
Yeah, God, look at the score, Dad. Oh, yeah, brilliant. I don't care. Anyway.
I was listening to the ABC call driving back from Newcastle, and Andrew Moore said 6-7. He did the whole 6-7 run. It was great. Andrew Moore, amazing play-by-play commentator.
Yeah,
by the way.
but
one of the absolute greats.
He's better than that. It was so annoying.
Yeah.
But, you got to give credit to Manly. You mentioned all those players, and like they're establishing themselves as for an opportunity to play finals, which looked so far out of reach, and great to see them back at home getting that win. It would have been so difficult for the whole football club and their fans included to witness those 3 home defeats. We were there at Leichhardt, Brookvale Oval, one of those traditional grounds as well, which it again, when Manly are playing well and the hill is rocking, great to watch.
Will they make finals, Manly?
Oh, they're every chance. We look at the teams who are struggling right now. Well, Melbourne was that their 6th loss in a row?
Yep.
So Melbourne, wouldn't have probably expected that. Sharks are faltering. They probably would have been 2 teams that stand out to me, who everyone probably would have been thought thereabouts. And Manly have overtaken them. Those 4 wins in a row, particularly, when you lose your home game, it's your first 3 home games. It's a long road back because you got to win on the road. Manly they were able to do that. They dragged them back. They clawed those wins back. They capitalised on their home game yesterday, I think. And, probably the years gone where they rely so much on Tommy, they're probably over. They've evolved more as a team. And Kula, who has that opportunity to come in and play fullback, he's fantastic. Leo Apawadi, Fogarty, Ola Kawatu, Paseka back's a big one too. Like they've got enough now that they're not that one man team where Tommy's out, there goes their hopes. And they showed that again yesterday. So still a lot of footy to be played. If anything, this season and the way the results are starting to trend, I don't think there's been a lot of consistency at all, bar a couple of teams like Penrith, probably the Tigers, Manly over the last month. The consistency hasn't been great from too many teams this year.
We've got to take a quick break, boys. You listen to Triple M NRL Daily, all thanks to the legends at Liquorland. Choose to drink wise. Now, boys, as always, we do the show thanks to Liquorland. Absolutely legendary, the team at Liquorland. And legend is a term that gets thrown around a bit. But if you've been helping Aussies raise a glass for over 50 years, it's fair use. The legendary Liquorland is just that, filling fridges for all occasions from cosy nights in to footy parties to last-minute dashes. When you forgot to bring a bottle, I forgot to bring a bottle for Anzac Day. I forgot the bottle shops closed on Anzac Day. Went to Liquorland, closed. And I was going to a house party. And I thought, oh no, what am I going to do? Scab beer off everyone else?
That's just poor form, Charlie. You can't go to a party and not have your own liquor.
Yeah, I sort of went in sheepishly and then just started grabbing beers out of Eskies without asking for permission. It's the best way to go. Typical. Yep. A legendary country deserves a legendary bottle shop who bring the epic value and legendary drinks on your Liquorland. Legendary. Choose to drink wise. The Melbourne Storm, one of the absolute legendary teams in the NRL, but it hasn't been this year. 0-6, the last 6 games. What is going on?
I think they're hungover from last year's premiership fundamentally. It no doubt would have hurt that loss, but I think sometimes when you go back and you reflect and you realise you're one of 6 or 7 moments, one of those goes your way where you win the premiership. I think that hurts, and I think the more they lose, the deeper it cuts as well. I don't think that wound is going to close anytime soon. In fact, the more the situation worsens, the bigger that cut gets. I also think with the wrestle going out of the game, that was one of Melbourne's cornerstones of success. It's been policed out, which I think is a good thing. Their edge defense was. I don't know what the reason or excuse is, but I think back to Bellamy and those Melbourne teams, Wade, you'd noted this when Dogs or Dragons would throw shape at the edge, you knew that you were going to get an intense amount of pressure. Like they were so well drilled with all your shapes. You even had almost variations of plays to try and counteract what Melbourne Storm were going to do, because you had to go and think outside the box, because if you ran your regular shapes, they were so well drilled, and then the processing behind to cover it was they were a very difficult team to score against. You had to go above and beyond, and that's just not on display at the moment.
Yeah, I think you're right with a couple of points. Like, it's hard to climb that mountain, isn't it, to get to a grand final and give yourself an opportunity to win one. Melbourne have done it twice in a row and come off the field without the result. So to dust yourself off again and to try and climb that mountain again, it gets harder and harder. And you put in the players that are missing, like they lost Pappenhausen, they lose Eli Katoa, Nelson's gone, a few other changes this year. They've had some injuries to cover with. They're not clicking and they're in a bit of a hole. I don't know if any of those players down there have experienced a form slump like this. I've never seen a Cameron Munster in a team that's lost 6 in a row, a Harry Grant. So they're dealing with it, and it certainly hasn't happened to Craig Bellamy too often. So it's
first time ever for Craig Bellamy.
It's a foreign situation for them, and they got to fight their way out of it. But Jimmy said defence, which is hurting them. Like they've always had that up and in defence with the pressure, like you said.
Yeah.
But they were just they were giving South Sydney the plays to do, because they were so early. They were pulling themselves out of shape. It was just catching pass for South Sydney. And like, South Sydney's left edge is dangerous as we know it, right? But if you want to come up and in, not arrive on the pass, and they're basically just stalling their run and going hands to the corner, and then they had no cover defence. Like, they were pulling themselves out of shape. So there's some definite issues and probably confidence in their systems that have worked for so long right now, and they need to reestablish some of those key rules in defence that did make them so hard to score against, because at the moment they're just inviting oppositions to find ways around them.
And this is a very difficult task to overcome. You think about the people and the personnel that they've got there, and you back them all the way. But in any previous years of Bellamy at Melbourne, if they've lost games, it's a details thing. You could probably look at the video and go, this 5-minute period costs us the game here. Like, we need to figure out how we manage that, make players aware of trends that, maybe they start second halves poorly or finish the first half poorly, whatever it may be, or we're allowing too many offloads. You can, it's pretty detailed. It's not an easy fix, but it's something that you can make attention to and a singular focus. Keep doing what we're doing, tidy this area up, and we're going to be all right. Saturday's game, they would Craig Bellamy was talking about being embarrassed, and you'd hate to see that. Great on Harry Grant standing up for his coach. No one works this hard. He looked lost for words, but it's almost difficult to know where do you even start with a performance like that. There's no pinpoint area. There's no obvious fix there. That was a shocker on Saturday.
The other thing about the Melbourne Storm as well is if they've got the origin period to deal with, and how many players are they going to lose through that? They're going to lose
2.
And
2.
No Stefano Utoi-Kamanu at the moment.
Look, I know Payne Haas is out, but I don't know if he's in New South Wales top 6 front rowers.
Trent Liero?
Possibly. He was in that team last year.
He's fallen.
He'll be picked on incumbency.
Guaranteed 2 in Harry Grant and Munster. If they're fit, they'll be in the Origin arena, and possibly a handful more. So there's going to be some changes.
Coates, if he's back.
But then does he get thrust straight back into Origin? It's a tough one. Are you guys going to put a line through them yet, or not quite?
I wouldn't put a line through them, but they need to recalibrate some of their defensive systems or their thought processes, because again, when you lose games, you look through the review, and most of the stuff is finer details. Like, you know what your DNA is as a team, and that's we got our execution wrong there, or our communication, or we're poor in our mentality in certain areas, and that might have hurt us, our discipline or whatever. You can look at those small areas and keep on improving in areas you have to improve, but you know where your base is and what your DNA is.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment, Melbourne seem to be lost out there, and they've lost like who they are. Somehow they've got to find it again.
Interesting as well in Bellamy's press conference. I recall him using words to the effect of it might not be at the bottom yet, which I think is alarming.
The team they went up again had a great performance. The South Sydney Rabbitohs, they seem like they're a legit title contender maybe this year, Wade.
I think at their best, South Sydney for sure. They can compete with any team. Like they have the star power and the football nous to compete with any team at their best. I think at the moment, when they don't get it right, they're just a little bit off the mark, and I think that gap will keep narrowing as the season progresses, as the game gets bigger. Latrell, Cody, Jack White, and the other players in that team, Cam Murray. The bigger the game, the better they're going to be. I think for them, it's just about getting to the back end of the year in good shape. Like, do what you got to do, but I think that gap between their best and their worst will keep narrowing as the season goes on, and they are looking good.
They are, and don't underestimate the confidence and the boost in belief going down to Melbourne and winning would have given them. They've never beaten Melbourne in Melbourne before.
It's a crazy stat, isn't it?
But and Wayne Bennett just deflecting everything, not willing to put praise on his team, keeping his team accountable and honest. He knows that they're close, and I think they're not that far. Granted, they just got that magnificent win in Melbourne. He'll know that they'll need slight improvement if they're going to be a serious contender. I think them, Roosters, and the Broncos are sort of circling as the main title contenders to Penrith, and Souths probably need to be along with the Warriors. Souths will want to get to the top of that pile and then come and look, and can they put in a performance to beat Penrith? That's the big question.
Tallis Duncan and Origin Smokey, perhaps?
Playing well, isn't he? He's found that home there on the right edge. He's always been a talented player, and he probably he was off the bench, a middle more than an edge back role, but he's had that opportunity. He's taken it with both hands, and like we talk about the left edge and how potent that is for South Sydney. Well, teams understand this too, and a lot of the time they'll set their defensive edge with that extra marker, with that extra number. Sorry, maybe the fullback, or you work out your game plan to try and mitigate that threat. But the right edge, they need to be aware of when that happens, and they get their cue, their look, and to execute their play, and they're doing that at the moment. Like, and Tallis is a big reason why.
It's a special night for Tallis as well, playing on Anzac Day. A lot of his family involved in the Anzac, so. Meant a lot to him. So for him to go and score a hat trick would have been very special.
Huge.
Great show, boys. Great to have you in. We decided to have a Dragons free zone today. We just thought we spoke about them enough. They were rubbish, so we decided to leave them off to the rundown today.
Plus a Dogs and Sharks free, because Wade and I were both a bit nervous, but we pleaded with our bosses to avoid that, and we got the tick.
If they don't improve next week, Jimmy, we'll have to go after them.
Yeah, we will. But I'd say we'll make a deal. If the Dogs don't improve and Sharks don't improve, top of the rundown.
Yep.
We actually ran out of time. That's why we didn't get to them. So apologies to everyone. But thanks very much for listening. We'll be back tomorrow.